Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very aware that I stand between you and some drinks, so I don't intend to take very long. This was just an opportunity to sort of think a little bit perhaps about some of the additional things that we might do with the foundations that the Centre for Digital Built Britain, in collaboration with all of you, are laying. The Centre for Smart Infrastructure and Construction is an innovation and knowledge centre, so we get our money both from Innovate UK and EPSRC, for which we're very grateful, funders, thank you very much. And we work closely with a number of industry partners, as a number of you do, to really explore where the real-life challenges are and then look at solutions that we can implement in practice as well. As many of you will be aware, the data can come from a whole range of sources. We tend in CSIC to deal with the physical civil infrastructure and think about its condition at various points in its life cycle and how we better manage its condition. So we gain our data from these kinds of sources. I know we've heard a lot today about other kinds of data and lack thereof. Believe you me, we also suffer from the lack of data problem. And one of the problems I think we find, and this is true of the built environment in general and will continue to be true of a digital built Britain, and this was brought up earlier on by our colleagues talking about the healthcare examples, is that the built environment and infrastructure in particular is sticky stuff. It hangs around for centuries often, and so you're dealing with lumps of physical stuff that we're still using, for which we don't have full data over its history. So it's very important to think about how we kind of catch up our understanding of how those assets are performing and what kinds of data we can gather about them now that can give us insights into what happened to them in the past, as well as how they're then going to therefore perform for us in the future. So as I say, this is just some of the data that we use in CSIC. There's plenty of other data out there that we perhaps ought to be using and will come to use in the future as it becomes more available. But I think the problem that everyone in this room is struggling with is this challenge around curation of data. And I think that's something we can only address as a community, not just of academics, but of practitioners. And there's a lot of the other work that CDBB is leading on, which you will have heard about earlier this week, around things like the Digital Framework Task Group, the National Digital Twin, which is an attempt to address some of those challenges. We will see how successful we are. I think the attempt relies a lot on the collaboration and willingness of all of us. So we need to make sure that we maintain that collaboration and willingness. But just to talk a little bit about what we do at CSIC. So this looks rather like the Centre for Digital Built Britain's Design, Build, Operate and Integrate circle. We think about the way we design things, the way we construct them, how we manage and operate them through their life, and then how infrastructure in particular serves our cities, underpinned by these challenges around actually how do we get the data? What kinds of sensor systems do we use? And a sensor system can be anything from the phones that a number of you are waving around at the moment through to the kinds of things that I showed you before. And then how do we use that for data-driven decision-making? And that's the piece where Digital Built Britain at CDBB is really helping transform things in collaboration with so many others who are working in this room, obviously, helping us think about actually how do we curate the data and then how do we turn the data into useful information that we can use to inform better decisions. So I thought it would be worth just touching on some of the opportunities that we see from CSIC in these different areas, and I'm hoping my slides work. So in the area of design, we've talked a lot about modelling today. I've had a lot of people talking about modelling, but also there's the need then to calibrate those models against what's happening in real life. So some of the work we've done in CSIC, for example, is to instrument real infrastructure as it's being built so that we can calibrate the models that our designers are using. And the result of that is that we've got validated models that then allows us to be perhaps less cautious with our safety factors, because rather than having a safety factor based on we know we don't know stuff, we can reduce the amount of safety factor that we need, which results in cost savings, enables us to think better about designing for whole life value. So if we really understand how the designs perform in reality, we can think about what we really need to serve that lifetime, which could be uncertain. And that enables us ultimately to design for better resilience and reduce our resource use in construction. Obviously, in the world of construction, there are huge amounts of things that we can do. I originate in the world of manufacturing. So when I arrived in the world of civil engineering and discovered that process control was a phrase that people understood the words but didn't necessarily have the same understanding that the world I'd come from had of it, I was quite surprised. That attitude is very much changing. And, you know, our data sources, you've heard from Manuel earlier on about the AR/VR network, you know, so that kind of technology can really help us do things like create as-built BIM so that we have better information about our infrastructure. It can help us with quality assurance. Did we build what we planned to build? And if not, does it matter? And how much does it matter? We can also use it for things like automated progress tracking, monitoring of third-party assets that are going to be affected by any construction project that we carry out, with really the ultimate aim of reducing waste in the process, improving quality and improving our confidence in our built assets. That then brings us on to operation and maintenance, and this is a world where in CSIC we've looked a lot at some of our existing infrastructure. This is an image of a Network Rail bridge which is 150, nearly 200 years old and is still in operation. Needless to say, they're unsure about its condition. They've got very patchy records as to what has happened to it in the past. So what we've been doing there is looking at first how you can use sensors to understand its behaviour, which is the top image, and then how you can continue to use those sensors to understand how fast it's degrading, how worried do we need to be, at what point do we need to be taking remedial action, etc. So the opportunities there really are to use condition monitoring to enable predictive maintenance, to move from a find and fix to a predict and prevent mode of operation. Therefore, to be able to use risk-based maintenance and risk-based decision-making, which allows us to optimise our spending in a way that is safe. And then to think about future-proofing our infrastructure. And so that enables us to take a real whole-life approach to our asset management and to think about value in a new way. It's not just about how much is it going to cost me today, it's about what value will that lead over the lifetime of the initiative that I'm taking, whether that's 5 years, 20 years, or indeed 100 years. And then finally, the smart city systems piece, and again, you'll have heard from a variety of projects this morning. There's a couple of projects that were presented that are related strongly to CSIC around how we can use data, therefore, to better understand how our infrastructure serves our cities. And I don't just mean cities by that, obviously, I mean all of our communities, whether they're urban or rural, in fact. And you heard some work from Bryn earlier, thinking about how do we optimise our networks, how do we think about forecasting demand, how can we plan in 3 dimensions, not just what we do on the surface of the ground and above the surface, but actually going below the ground. And there are interesting projects emerging. We've done some collaboration with British Geological Survey, which is now moving on into some of the sort of beyond Project Hades, the underground asset registers, etc. So that really our infrastructure meets the needs of our populations. So that was a sort of very rapid trot through some of the things we're interested in doing at CSIC. I know this will have massive touch points on a lot of the things that you're all doing. I'd love to chat with you over a cup of something outside in a minute, but I don't want to get in the way of that. But if any of you are interested in finding out a bit more about what CSIC gets up to, we'd love to talk to you. Thank you.